Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Unscripted, and I am your host Shanaz Saddique. The role of overseas Pakistanis and Kashmiris is not just within the Parliament of the United Kingdom or the local councils, but also further afield to those countries that they actually belong to. And today we're talking about Pakistanis and Kashmiris, so exactly that, the role that they play within Pakistan, and in more recent times, what is going to happen within Azad Kashmir. It is estimated that there are around 2 million overseas Pakistanis and Kashmiri diaspora within the United Kingdom, of which around 70% is estimated to come from Azad Jammu Kashmir. Now today I have two special guests, and in particular we're going to speak to these guests about the role that the people of Pakistan and Azad Jammu Kashmir have to play in the United Kingdom when it comes to trade and investment, and also the role that they are playing and will predominantly play more when it comes to electing the politicians of Pakistan and Azad Jammu Kashmir. And first of all, I want to welcome my guest, Sahibzada Amir Jaggir, who is a personal friend of Imran Khan, the Prime Minister of Pakistan for more than 40 years, and also the spokesperson to Imran Khan for trade and investment for UK and Europe. Assalamu alaikum, Sahibzada Saab. Can you hear me, Sahibzada Saab?
Yes, Shanaz, I'm sorry I was not able to hear you.
Okay. I know that we're catching you. You just arrived in Nottingham, and I think you've got a little bit of playing around to do with the camera, but I hope that we will have a conversation about your role. Now, why is it, do you believe, that Imran Khan decided to choose you for the role of spokesperson when it came to trade and investment within UK and Europe? Someone who lives in the United Kingdom, someone who, of course, has been a friend of Imran Khan for many years. I think we're having some problem, a technical problem with that. Whilst that is being fixed, I'm sure we'll come back to that. Now, for those of you that are aware of the politics of Pakistan, will be aware that whenever Imran Khan has spoken about overseas Pakistanis, and in particular those from the United Kingdom, he has said that they are the backbone of the investment, and the role that they play within Pakistan is absolutely paramount. Now, what he has done over specifically since he took office as Prime Minister is to ensure that the political engagement of the overseas diaspora has grown from strength to strength. Now, those of you that are aware of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the political party that Imran Khan is now elected and governs, and Imran Khan is also the chairman of that party, will understand that there are many people who have joined the party. And I think Sahibzada Saab is going to join us. Sahibzada Amir Jaggir, the question I asked was that why do you feel that Imran Khan chose you as a person to be the spokesperson for trade and investment once he took office as the Prime Minister?
Shanaz, thank you very much indeed for invite. And yes, I've just arrived here, and it's a small dinner hosted by Basharat Salim and Musaddiq Khan, who are, the PTI activist in Azad Kashmir. To answer your question, why Imran Khan had chosen me as a spokesperson for trade and investment here in the UK, I suppose the best person really to answer that question would be the Prime Minister himself. But I feel very humbled, very honored that he put the trust in me. And I suppose it may have been due to the background that I have lived in this country for about over 40 years now. And my association with various businesses have been very wide. I have seen people in this country, especially the Pakistani origin, who have risen from literally nowhere, and they are today very, very successful entrepreneur of this country. And I've also seen a lot of very high profile entrepreneurs sort of going and lost in wilderness. So I reckon it was perhaps that background that the Prime Minister thought that I may be able to deliver more than some bureaucrat doing it. Because when you appoint a bureaucrat to come down here, he normally comes for a duration of 2 to 3 years. And from my experience, I have seen it takes him about a year or so to at least get to know the name of the street, forget about the name of the people. And I reckon perhaps he's not as effective as one would desire. So having a local person doing a job that is required, I think that is more meaningful. Having said that, this appointment carries no financial benefits for me. I get no salary from the government, and I'm purely doing it on an honorary basis. I'm a founding member of the party. The party in the UK was formed at my home here in London. And in Pakistan, when it was formed, I was obviously standing shoulder to shoulder with my leader. And now I can tell you, if you perhaps, I mean, you haven't asked me, but if you allow me to continue,
I was just going
then
to say,
since I have been
I'm just
appointed,
talking about entrepreneurs. Very early days when Imran Khan took office, he had a very strong relationship with Anil Musarrat, who also is a friend of yours and who continues to support the party and who continues to work with entrepreneurs across the country. What role would you say that people like Anil and other entrepreneurs who are highly successful in the United Kingdom have with Pakistan currently?
you see, Anil is a very successful and very focused, disciplined entrepreneur. And I suppose he needs no introduction from me with regard to his various achievements that he has done uh, in the field of business and helping Pakistan in various forms, in charity, otherwise. Anil initially was very, very involved with Imran Khan in supporting him in becoming the Prime Minister. But Anil has his own limitations, such as that his time in the UK is very valuable. He has to be here. And some of the viewers may not know, I know for a fact that Anil starts his business activities from 6 o'clock in the morning and it goes on till midnight. So finding a gap in between to devote time to Pakistan, I suppose he found it very difficult. And it was not possible for him to, time-wise, get involved with Pakistan. But having said that, yes, morally, financially, and otherwise, he's always available to the
Would you
Prime
agree
Minister
with me,
for any
Sardar
advice that
Saab,
he
that
needs.
the fact that we do have people like Anil who are extremely successful here, that there is an internal, if I can use the word, opposition or bickering within the party itself, that believe that people like Anil, not just Anil, if we don't mention Anil's name, maybe other people who are successful businessmen here and women here, that their role within Pakistani politics or politics within Pakistan needs to be limited, and that in fact it should be the entrepreneurs, business people of Pakistan that should be influencing the politics within the party?
I don't think, sir, that Anil in any way was controversial with any of the party leaders, because he enjoys very good relationship with all the leadership in Pakistan. He's a very likable and a lovable person, and I would only put down to Anil not being actively involved to the fact that Anil time is very, very valuable, and he is needed here where he has massive involvement in businesses, and he has to be on ground, on the field all the time.
So moving back to you then, Safdar Saab, if I can move back to you, you're somebody who is known to be travelling across the UK, Europe and beyond. And like you said, you have that responsibility as a spokesperson, not given a salary. That, I mean, today you're in Nottingham and you are known to travel to Manchester on a frequently basis. You travel the country, you are working with the elected body to promote trade and investment. So what does it mean to someone like you to hold that responsibility within UK and Europe?
Now, how do I answer that question? Very difficult. I suppose, you see, it goes way back. It goes back to, I think, about 45 years since I had met Imran Khan. And like yourself, like me, and like millions others, he was my hero. And from that day onwards, I've been really following his footstep. And when he was in Shaukat Khanum, I traveled with Imran Khan all over the world, raising funds for him. Namal College, again, I involved myself very, very extensively with him. And then PTI, the politics, I got involved again with Imran. And I feel really very humbled and honored carrying a message to various sections of the society to come out and help Pakistan. Pakistan, you know, after all, this is where our roots are. We all come from Pakistan, you, me, and many of our friends. And whatever little contribution we can make, I feel very honored, very privileged that I'm able to do it.
What in particular, what in particular do you feel that you are able to contribute? I think about 2 weeks ago, we had the representative from Pakistan consulate in Manchester who works particularly looking at trade, and we also had an entrepreneur, Afzal Shah, who also works within the property market and works within real estate. You as an individual, with the people that you work with Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, voters, supporters, and the body itself, together wider Pakistanis and Kashmiris, what in particular do you feel that you are able to achieve when it comes to trade and investment?
You see, Pakistan, I think, has got tremendous potential, tremendous natural resources, which has not been fully explored. People like me and you, we have a responsibility on our shoulders to carry a message, to do the awareness, and tell people what it's all about. Before we were hit by Corona, I was able to take Andrew Forrest to Pakistan. Andrew Forrest is the richest man in Australia, and he's one of the amongst the few top billionaires in the world. And it was my massive desire that somehow I induce him to travel with me to Pakistan. Now, you know, when a guy reaches that kind of a height that he has businesses worldwide, Pakistan would not be the priority for him. Priority would be for him like developed countries around the world, like Europe, America, Australia. But he went with me. We had a meeting with the Prime Minister, and he promised the Prime Minister that should you in future try and have control over the corruption, he said, Prime Minister, I'm going to come back again here and I'm going to make billions of dollars investment in Pakistan. And then again, only a few months back, I took Andrew Forrest and his team back to Pakistan. And now he is in negotiation with the government of Pakistan for introducing green technology there, which will, on his part, bring in at least $10 billion investment in Pakistan. After that, I took another, one of the largest, I would not use the word one of the largest, it was the largest private oil corporation in the world called Vitol. And I took their chairman and the deputy chairman to Pakistan, introduced them to Imran Khan, and they promised to make an investment in Pakistan. And they, as I speak to you, they have already injected over 100 million pounds in setting up oil terminals in Karachi port areas.
I mean, a
Other
few
than
weeks
that,
ago, when we had the discussion about trade and investment, one of the questions I asked was that the common person out there, if they wish to, let's just say, invest within Pakistan, and this is something that Imran Khan talks about and many other people like yourself talk about, the common person out there, say somebody sold a property here and they have 20 to 30,000 pounds and they want to invest that. What sort of areas would you be able to assist in supporting to encourage those overseas diasporas here to invest it back into Pakistan? And one of the other things connected to that was the conversation that we had, that we learnt about, that despite coronavirus, that the industry, certain industries, construction industry, property industry, tourism, all those industries are booming within Pakistan. So how can those people listening out there engage and feel that they can actually make that difference through people like yourself?
I suppose one of the things really, which is very, very important, is to bridge the gap between the seller in Pakistan and buyers at this end. And somehow we have been in the past lagging in that. That is a very important area that we had to tackle. Fortunately, I have had some success. I have been able to open the doors for the sellers from Pakistan here in the UK and in Europe. And that is creating the awareness. For this, we were just on the verge of organizing an international summit conference here in the UK, which Prime Minister Imran Khan himself was to attend last year. And it was a 3-day conference which I was organizing. And we were inviting over 500 people, not only from Pakistani diaspora, but also the chief executives of various blue chip companies, so they could hear the Prime Minister directly themselves and induce them in taking them to Pakistan.
Are you looking to
Unfortunately,
reschedule that
Corona has
summit?
stopped this. But
Are
now,
you?
Shanaz, what we're doing is, I have spoken with the High Commissioner also in the UK. I want Pakistan High Commission to allocate one large room whereby we will have various catalogs, various leaflets, sample products, CDs, disc, anything which markets your product. Right? The product is tourism, product is what we produce over there, product is the areas where we need investment to, in the areas of oil and gas. All this should be readily available here in the UK, where we can invite the various potential investors on and off without taking him to Pakistan. Because visiting Pakistan for some time people are reluctant and it doesn't fit into their programs. So if that can be introduced here in London, then I have proposed to the Prime Minister that such exhibit halls we will have in all the embassies around Europe, so that our trade councillors can invite various people for a cup of tea and give them a round of that exhibit hall and show them how progressive, what kind of a, you know, it would be an eye opener for them, because right now there's a huge gap between Pakistan and overseas buyers, and that needs to be reduced. It needs very aggressive selling on our part. Pakistan is a product, and we need to sell that product. And in order to sell the product, we need to create as much awareness as possible. Awareness creates a habit, and that habit we want to create, where people can come, visit our embassies around Europe and UK, and get first-hand information as to whatever they need, rather than sitting back here, writing to the Ministry of Overseas, writing to the Ministry of BOI, a Board of Investment. You mentioned Pakistani diaspora who wants to invest something like £30,000. I said even 5,000 investment, £5,000 will be hugely welcome. And I feel he should be given the same kind of a treatment, same kind of a importance as we give to the other big investors. You know, we must remember, China was built by the overseas Chinese. Malaysia was built by the overseas Malaysians. And same way, I hope and pray that Pakistan would also attract the overseas Pakistanis to come in Pakistan and invest. I know the problem they face. They are huge problems. And straight away, we blame the Prime Minister for those problems. No, Prime Minister can only do, you see, he had inherited a system where all these areas were alien to the foreign investors, to the overseas Pakistanis. As you can see, our foreign remittance have increased substantially. Why they have increased substantially could be various factors, but one of the factor is we have got honest leadership in Pakistan. And because there's
One of the
honest
things
leadership,
that most
people
recently,
feel,
when it came to trade and investment, Sardar Sahab, you will remember there was a ranking, and Pakistan made tremendous ground when it came to ease of business, and that in itself is, I'm sure you would agree with me, an important factor. But finally, before I go on to my next guest, we're going to talk about the politics of Azad Kashmir. I think have we lost Sardar Sahab there?
No.
Okay, so whilst we get the next guest ready, I was going to ask you, Sardar Sahab, Boris Johnson, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, has invited Imran Khan to come and visit, but also most recently we've heard that the European Commission, European Union, there's also been an invitation, an extended invitation for Imran Khan to also visit and look at the relationship of Pakistan when it comes to supporting the role of Pakistan and the European nation. When is Imran Khan coming to the United Kingdom?
I would say at the moment, Imran Khan is not coming. These were just rumors that he would be due here in July, and some said it's a private visit. The others said it may be an official visit. And the reason he's not coming here at the moment is that, you see, of course, we have controlled Corona to a great extent, but inviting a whole delegation along with Imran Khan from Pakistan, because he will not be traveling alone. There'll be various other people with him. It will be a huge problem, both for Pakistan as well as for this government here in the UK. So whatever little hiccups we have in the way, it's all been sorted out through the Zoom talking. But yes, once the Corona settles down, Imran Khan has every plan to come down to the UK and come down to the EU countries. Imran Khan is a very, very popular leader. He is loved here in UK and Europe and all over the world, not only by Pakistani diaspora, but also by the leadership around the world, because they can relate to him. They can see he is a very honest, fearless, and compassionate leader that at last we are gifted in Pakistan.
Thank you,
And
Shahzad Saab. I'm
Shanaz,
hoping
with that, I think,
okay, we're
yes,
going to
I
try and
thank
get
you very
Musaddiq
much indeed,
Khan
and I'm going to get
online,
to next.
who is the former General Secretary of PTI AJK. We're going to try and see that if we can get him online. I know that he's in Nottingham with you, Shahzad Saab. Sorry, Shahzad Saab, continue, please.
Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Okay, thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful dinner, and thank you for giving us your time. Now, the technical team is trying to get a hold of Musaddiq Khan, who is the former General Secretary of PTI AJK and a representative of PTI AJK within the United Kingdom, also a founding member and a very senior representative. Now, why I felt today that I wanted to flip the coin a little bit and talk particularly when it comes to the role of the Pakistani and Kashmiri diaspora within Pakistan is that in most recent weeks we've heard the role of overseas Pakistanis when it comes to the election. And the election, the 2021 election is scheduled to be held in Azad Kashmir in less than 13 days after the dissolution of the current Legislative Assembly, set to dissolve on the 28th of February 2021 and after completion of a 5-year term. The current leader is, we're going to keep on trying to get a hold of Musaddiq. The current leader is Raja Farooq Haider from Pakistan Muslim League Noon. And for those of you that may not be aware, there are around 32 constituencies of Azad Kashmir and 12 constituencies of the refugees of Jammu Kashmir. Now, when we talk about overseas diaspora, we understand, and from the statistics that we have from the 2011 census, that there are around 2 million overseas Pakistanis and Kashmiris, of which 70% of them are from Azad Jammu Kashmir, predominantly from the Mirpur area of Azad Kashmir. Now, that in itself shows that there are a substantial number of people settled here. Today was the deadline for the nomination papers to actually be submitted, and the final list of the candidates will be released on July the 3rd. Around 2.8 million people will cast their vote. Now, if overseas Pakistanis, in particular Kashmiris, do cast their vote during these elections, how will that, let's say, change the dynamics of the elections in July, in fact, the 25th of July? To what extent will those dynamics change? Now, obviously, at the moment, we've got the red list and travel restrictions, and many people are contemplating, if they haven't gone over already, are contemplating whether they should actually go and partake in these elections, not just as voters, but also supporting the candidates. Now, supporting candidates in itself is a huge phenomenon. Overseas diaspora carry the power of the pound, and they also carry the power of the vote. So within their own constituencies, whether that be within Mirpur, whether that be in somewhere like Kotli, Muzaffarabad, then that in itself is very interesting. And for those people who are familiar with the politics of Azad Kashmir will understand, and I feel will agree with me, that the voice of overseas Kashmiris is a significant voice. And in particular, I make reference to the current president of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf Azad Kashmir, the former Prime Minister of Azad Kashmir, Barrister Sultan Muhammad, who himself has a huge following, huge support outside Azad Kashmir, outside Pakistan, sitting in cities like Bradford, Blackburn, Leicester, London, Slough, Hounslow, all those big cities, Manchester, that wherever there is an overseas Kashmiri, and as we've said, around 2 million overall, of 70% of them are from those particular areas, then they will have a connection with someone like Barrister Sultan Muhammad. But what happened in the last election, despite what I've just said, and I'm hoping that the technical team is trying to get hold of Saddique Saab, who is actually in Nottingham, probably making arrangements for the dinner for Sabzada Ahmed Jagir Saab, that despite the significance of the power of the people, that in the last election, when it came to actually attaining seats, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf only took 2 seats, and Muslim Conference, which is led by Sardar Atiq Rahman, took 3 seats. So why is that? Why is it, and I asked that question, why is it that despite all the things that I've just said, that the seats were not taken? So is it significant that the role of overseas should be within the political dynamics, i.e. the voters? And I believe that other hosts have covered this subject at length. Kamran Pirzada has covered it only, I think, last week. And the voice from the opposition is saying something else. Now, the voice from the opposition is actually saying that what does the person, the man or the woman in Bradford or Manchester or Leeds or further afield, what do they know about the candidate, the ticket holder of those particular constituencies? What do they know about those people? If I was voting here over in Lancashire or Bradford here, I would know my local candidate. I would know their background, I would have met them, I would have even expected them to knock on my door. So sitting here in the United Kingdom or in Europe or in America or wherever you may be overseas, then what information do you have? What information do you have about the candidate? What information do you have about those people who have submitted their papers today and are actually looking to take the seat? Some would argue, and I'm going to carry on just conversing with you now, some would argue that they have no understanding. And what in fact happens is that those people who live there, the actual local residents, will then in turn influence the people who are living here, or vice versa, that if they are in fact supporting them, if they have found family and friends there, that they are in fact conversing and making decisions based upon family systems, based upon local support. And the actual essence of politics is perhaps, or the role of those politicians is perhaps lost in this dynamic. Now, I'm just going to see if the technical team have managed to get hold of him. Okay, it might be that they can use the same link that we've got. We've got the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf's General Secretary Aslam Bhutta Saab, I think, is also present in this special meal today. So it could be that the technical team will try and connect Saddique Saab through his number. Now, one of the things that, as I've just said, has been greatly debated within the National Assembly of Pakistan is the fact that the voting right should not be given to overseas Pakistanis and Kashmiris, that they themselves should not be influencing the dynamics of the politics within Pakistan and Kashmir. Others would argue that the diaspora, in fact, are financiers, they are investors. And why should they not partake in these kinds of activities Are they simply just bank accounts who are giving money to people back home? Why can't they help to decide who are, in fact, those candidates? But not just candidates, but to help elect them. So if you've got your own opinion on that, what I'm hoping that you will do is leave your comment and leave your message once the live program finishes onto our Facebook page, and do continue this conversation, because in weeks to come, obviously we will be covering the election. It isn't all that far away. In fact, it's just around 4 weeks away. Now, another thing that has perhaps been mentioned is that the NCOC suggested that the election should be postponed by 2 months, partially because of the rise of coronavirus there in Pakistan, and concerns that election campaigning and activities may in fact spread the virus further within July. So perhaps there may be some delay. Others would argue not, that there shouldn't be a delay, and just as Sadr Ahmed Jagir has suggested, that through Zoom and through videos, through conferencing, that the facilities are there for people to avail. Whatever happens, whether these elections go ahead on time on the 25th of July or whether they are postponed, is something that the overseas diaspora will be watching very, very carefully, because as I've said, that the fact that Pakistan is in the red list and the travel is restricted, it does cause a lot of constraints, financial constraints, for many of those people who are wishing to travel. I don't think we're going to be able to get hold of them. So what I will do is, if I can say, park that interview, and hopefully we will be able to get Sultan Khan at a later date to talk about the dynamics and the politics of Azad Kashmir, and what relevance and what role overseas Kashmiri diaspora do have to play. And like I've said, if you are somebody, and if you are somebody who's interested, maybe you are yourself from that particular region and you want to partake, then please do leave your comment. But maybe you are somebody that believes that no, people living in the United Kingdom, people living across Europe shouldn't have that role to play. They should not be, if I could use the word, interfering within the politics, the local politics and the national politics of those particular regions. So on that note, I'm going to leave you with those thoughts. We are going to finish the program a little bit early. I hope you've had an insight into the politics of Pakistan and the role of overseas Pakistanis and Kashmiris in the United Kingdom, not just in trade and investment, but also the actual day-to-day politics of Pakistan and Azad Kashmir. Assalamu alaikum.